Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. Now, I've known David, sitting to my right, for a little while, but there was a time where I knew he was the one for me to co-host a podcast with me. It was when we went to a bar, and over drinks, he explained to me how he loves James Bond. He talked to me for 45 minutes about all these James Bond facts, about how there's multiple owners of the properties. There's like a James Bond movie that's non-canon that this one guy was in.
There's lore about the Bond franchise just in the real world.
Yeah, he listens to James Bond podcasts. He's seen all the movies.
No, you don't.
I do. I pay for a Stitcher Premium subscription because the only place that the podcast that I listen to about James Bond is available is on Stitcher Premium now.
God.
You might as well plug the name of the podcast.
James Bonding. Go listen to it if you have Stitcher Premium.
Great name.
James Bonding.
So last night we watched Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Riley, had you...
Well, that's so funny. Anyways, have I what?
What's funny?
Well, it's funny that you love James Bond.
I know. Well, the reason that I liked that he liked it,
Yeah.
I don't care at all about James Bond, but I was like, this guy's going to nerd out about anything, this thing,
Yeah.
for 45 minutes. He's my kind of people.
Okay.
I liked it.
I mean, I can respect that. I can respect nerding out about something.
Yeah.
I don't understand Bond.
Have you seen any Bonds?
I've seen a few Bonds. I haven't seen a ton of like the really old ones. I feel like I saw most of the Pierce Brosnan ones because that was like when I was a kid. But I didn't go back and see. I might have seen like one of the Sean Connery ones.
They used to have like marathons on like TLC or something. I think it was around Christmas or something. They'd be like, 3 days, we're only playing Bond. We're just playing the whole catalog because we're on holidays.
I didn't tune in for many of those.
So that sums up my experience. I've seen, I don't know, maybe a dozen of them. I've never seen one of them start to finish without falling asleep.
Wow.
I've seen pieces of a bunch of them. I've never seen one in full.
See, my problem is that it's not that they were boring. They've always been, fun romps. But I think that just the core idea of the whole franchise and the characters is deeply uninteresting to me. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Okay. All right. So David, what do you give this Bond movie out of 10?
Okay. I say it's a satisfyingly slick and stylish fun film with more character, heart, and wit than any other movie in the series. It's a perfect 007 out of 007.
Oh.
But it's actually a 9 out of 10 on my normal film scale.
Whoa, 9 out of 10.
9 out of
Holy-
10 on a normal film scale.
Where does that fit on your Bond scale?
This is the best one.
Yeah,
This is your favorite
This is
Bond.
my ultimate Bond film.
I can understand that. That's interesting. Because, do you rate it out of the Bond films or as a film?
Well, if you haven't seen any of the rest, then just as a film, please.
Okay, so I rated it 7 out of 10. And my slogan is, "Oh no, James Blonde's wife die."
Okay. Spoilers.
If you haven't seen a 14-year-old movie by now, you're...
Yeah, sorry guys, there's spoilers here.
I'm giving this movie a 7 overall. I'll qualify that later.
Okay.
And my slogan is Casino Royale. At first, my mind was shaken, but by the end, I was stirred. I just thought of that right now.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
Wow, nice. And then I say, shaken or stirred, I don't give a damn.
Hey.
Because that's what he says in the movie. Did you remember?
Yeah,
Did you even notice?
Are you talking about Gone with the Wind?
Frankly, my dear, shaken or stirred, I don't give a damn.
Oh my God. So if you haven't seen this movie in a long time or never at all, Riley here has a synopsis for you.
Oh, yeah. Hey, so this is what happens, guys. After James Bond's first mission as 007 doesn't go as planned, Bond decides to investigate independently of MI6. His search leads to Le Chiffre, banker to the world's terrorist organizations and weeper of blood.
Why?
I don't know. Turns out Le Chiffre is planning to make up for his recent financial losses in a high-stakes poker game in Montenegro at Le Casino Royale. MI6 assigns 007 to play against him. If Le Chiffre loses, he will seek asylum with MI6 in exchange for information on his terrorist network. M places Bond under the watchful eye of the charming and intelligent Vesper Lind. Lind and Bond meet Mathis, MI6's local field agents, and the poker game commences. Enduring dirty tricks and violence, he's poisoned at one point.
Oh, that was good.
Bond eventually wins, but after realizing Mathis is a traitor, he and Lind are captured and interrogated for access to the winnings. But before he can castrate Bond, Le Chiffre is killed by Mr. White, a member of the organization to which Le Chiffre owed money. While recovering from their injuries, Bond and Lind bond.
Oh, do they ever?
Realizing they love each other, they vacation in Venice, and Bond sends M his resignation. It's then revealed that Lind is a double agent and has transferred the poker winnings to the same shadowy organization. After a big fight in a sinking building, and despite Bond's attempts to save her, Lind is killed and Bond returns to MI6. Oh, and then he goes and shoots Mr. White in the leg and says his name is Bond, James Bond.
And boom, credits. Abrupt credits. I was like, whoa, that was the most interesting thing that happened.
Wait, James is his middle name?
BJB. It's Bond Jr.
James Bond.
That's a person.
Yeah.
What's a person?
Bond Jr.
What is a person?
There's a TV show. It's animated. It's not good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
Bond Jr.?
a good premise at all.
Is that on Disney Channel or something?
Grape juice.
Although,
Chicken, not stirred.
what? Or is that a real quote? No. Okay.
Great.
Bond's ego is so huge. If he did have a son, he would just name him Junior.
Yeah,
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. He wouldn't name him James Bond Jr. He'd call him Bond.
I'm going to call my kid David the Third. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, obviously.
What's wrong with naming your kid after yourself?
That's nothing wrong
Wait,
with that.
you're already a second?
No.
Oh.
I'm just so important that I occupy 2 spots in my
okay.
lineage.
No, that's
Oh,
fine.
dang.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I hate Bond, but that's okay.
Okay, David, I'm going to give you a big, I wonder how you feel about this.
Oh, gosh.
Your 9 out of 10 movie here. Maybe if they just cut off the first hour.
Opposite.
Before you respond, let me tell
Shut
you
up.
this one message from our sponsor. Carpool Critics is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, your Bond jewels, including the greatest ball hair trimmer on the planet, the Lawnmower 3.0. That's right, Riley. I know your balls are as smooth as eggs.
Already.
And you owe it all to the ceramic blade, 7,000 RPM quiet stroke motor, and especially that LED light so you can see what you're doing, you know? No nicks, no scratches. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CARPOOL at manscaped.com.
Check it out.
We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 5 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch if your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a Chrome extension, so check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolpia.
Did you guys know that the copyright for James Bond has run out in Canada and that we could make a James Bond movie?
What are we doing here?
Yes.
What the heck?
Now official James Bond.
Why haven't we done this already? Yeah.
Whoa, so is it public domain?
It's public domain in Canada now.
So you
Wait,
can make
really?
a James Bond bar.
Yep.
You can anything you want.
Yep.
You can make a James Bond board game.
The problem is the movies aren't public domain, so you can't use iconography from the movies,
Right.
which is what people would recognize. But you can use characters, names, places, plots, anything from the books.
You can
do
use
like,
the book covers.
but you can't do that.
Maybe not. I'm not sure.
You can't do that like barrel looking thing.
No.
What's the name of that thing?
The gun barrel sequence.
Gun barrel sequence? Is that what it's called? You know, everyone knows it from the video games.
Yep.
You know, the blood comes
Yeah,
down.
the GBS.
Yeah, the GBS.
Where's the blood coming from? Is it in the barrel?
That's
that
right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's how guns work.
Yeah.
What are
If
you
get shot-
looking at?
You're looking through the barrel of the gun, which is
Yeah.
fine, but then he gets shot and then the blood goes over the barrel, so he's getting shot and it's dripping.
That's some postmodern stuff, man. Like guns bleed.
Wait. So you're looking through the barrel of gun from the perspective of the person shooting it?
of the bullet. You're
Of
looking
the
at like the
bullet?
bullet that's about to fire.
Okay. And then, so the blood shouldn't be
David
there.
just held his hand up in front of his face as if he was looking through the. That was great. You are the bullet.
Seriously though, chop off the first hour.
I can't
Well-
disagree more. I think if you're going to cut out anything, it's the last act. I think the act of him
What?
like resigning, having the vacation, all this, it's such an anti-Bond ending. Normally, it would either be like a 5-minute thing where he just like, they resolve the thing, they beat the villain, they beat the henchman, then it's over, they kiss, and then they've already killed his wife before. That's a thing that's happened in Bond, but it was such a quick thing. It was like, they're driving away. It's all good, and then they get a drive-by. She's dead. He holds her as she's dying, and she's dead. And then he cries, and that's and then it cut to credits.
In the timeline of I have lots of Bond saga questions here.
Excellent.
And I'm glad you're here for this. So in the timeline of Bond, because this is like a prequel kind of Bond,
This
right?
is like the origin.
It's a reboot.
sort of. Yeah.
So would it be before his wife dying in that other one?
Yeah. No, that never happened.
Yeah. So this is like before. The
This
wife.
is a reboot.
Yeah. This is the first mission he goes on.
Yeah. Okay. So that didn't happen. So
No, that hasn't happened
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
The Daniel Craig.
And he's not married to Vesper.
So
he just
why would
loves her.
Why would you? I don't understand your reasoning, because to me that last bit of the movie was like really the whole movie.
I was gonna say that was my favorite part of the movie. I'm like, I want to see a whole movie of like deconstructing Bond, and instead we got a regular Bond movie, and then like 20 minutes of deconstructing Bond.
I will say that I think a flaw of the Bond series that they'll never solve is they're too afraid to deconstruct Bond, really. This is the furthest they go, and this movie is like actually pulling him down as a person, and like you see him evolve, and then he gets betrayed by Vesper, his like love, and that you really feel, and then that's like the moment that he becomes Bond.
I have a question for that, because he's known to just be this guy womanizer, right?
Yep.
And in this one,
Gorilla Man.
he gets really close to her. They spend a lot of time on this sequence. It's almost too much movie time. We're like, okay, we get it. They're gallivanting. They're in Venice, and they're going on
really?
ships, and they're making out everywhere and having a lot of sex. Like, okay. But then
Really?
he resigns, right? Or rather, he likes this part.
Well, no, I was just gonna say it felt really fast. But maybe that's because I know the end is like coming really quick.
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I'm 2.5 hours into this thing already. I was like, oh, okay.
It was the longest Bond film at the time.
And then yeah, but only by a couple minutes, right? They're all like pretty close.
2 hours around, and then a bit. Yeah, 2 hours
This
20.
one was like 2.5.
This is 2:24, I
Yeah,
think.
two.
And the new one, the next
Is
one,
the longest.
is going to be the
Which has
longest.
just been delayed by 6 months.
I know. I found that out while I was on Tech Links. I was
So
like,
mad.
David!
So mad.
Oh, you're
so
upset.
Of course.
You're
ready.
excited about it.
I'm very excited about it.
Well, I feel like we need to dive more into why you love Bond before we like get into this movie in a deep way. What do you like about Bond so much?
I think in the same way
I'm
that
British shooty man.
I think in the same way that I love Star Wars, it's such a nerd icon.
You don't love Star Wars.
Not anymore.
Yeah, me neither.
They were done with that. It's just like a nerd icon thing. And so like you guys know me pretty good. Maybe this will help you understand me. Like I love to gather information. And so like when there's big franchises, one of my favorite things is just to like watch everything, learn things about it, like read things about it, read books about it, listen to podcasts about it. And so I love things that there is like decades of history to learn. And so I find there's something very satisfying. So my first Bond experience was when I was like 8 years old. I was at my grandma's house for the summer. Not super fun. There's not that much to do. But she had a VHS set of like 5 Bond films or something. So that was the first time I saw it. And so I Googled, because Google existed
ones
at
were
the
they?
time. I can't remember.
Were
but
they all the same period?
They were ish the same period. They were like 70s, 80s ones. But the one I remember watching was The Spy Who Loved Me. And the cold open is him skiing. And at the end, he jumps off a huge cliff and then drops his skis, and then his parachute comes out, and it's the British flag, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, what is this movie? Because it's real. There's an actual stuntman jumping off it. It's a real cliff. He's doing it. And I was like, this is insane. But it didn't really click for me until this movie. And so...
You know what? Okay, so that I totally get that, because that is a perfect example of the campy, cheesy Bond that I think really characterized the series up until even like through the Pierce Brosnan run. Maybe it got like a little more deep in the Pierce Brosnan run, but like Daniel, this Casino Royale is kind of like the dark gritty reboot.
Yeah, it was
100%.
like a fresh
Yeah.
start, and it was like he's back. It's a new Bond.
Yeah. This movie actually came out a year after Batman Begins, which was kind of like the dark gritty reboot, realistic reboot of Batman.
There's no gadgets in this one. He's tortured.
Yeah, so like there's no, and I think that maybe that's why it rubs me the wrong way. Like I feel like I saw a bunch of the Pierce Brosnan ones, and to me Bond was, hey, I'm making silly jokes and I got all these wacky gadgets and like things are exploding and I'm skiing away from an explosion while shooting multiple bad guys. Like, I don't know. I don't love that either, but like I can get behind that as like a fun
Then
romp.
you see Daniel Craig smash through drywall.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just
And then-
like, what?
Yeah, it's Daniel Craig and he's just like a hulking gorilla of a man. He's just like, I am man. I kill people, licensed to kill.
I don't think you're giving him credit. He's an intelligent Bond.
Hold on a
he's,
second, Riley. Can you do that kind of Cro-Magnon man voice in a British accent?
I am British man. I smash. Bond smash men. Shoot license to kill.
I think so. Daniel Craig definitely has the reputation of being maybe the most brutish Bond since Connery, because Connery is very similar to Bond in being like very imposing, but he's also got the lifestyle. Yes, very much.
He's got a little tuft.
But he also is like a very intelligent, clever, witty Bond. And
This one.
Yeah, totally. He's problem solving with his brain, not with gadgets that have been given to him. And I think what I liked about this one more than the Pierce Brosnan ones, because I watched them growing up and I didn't really like them. But this one, Bond is everything. Every resource that he has is him.
Right.
Whereas Pierce Brosnan, he's so reliant on other people. He's reliant on the gadgets that have been given to him, on the information that people are getting him. But this is... Daniel Craig is getting by his wits.
And they really focused on that in this movie during that poker game. It's literally him across from the villain, just they're staring at each other's faces, trying to like figure each other out.
Yeah.
That was pretty intense.
That is pretty intense. Maybe I recoil from that a little bit because I'm just like, who do you think you are? Like, settle down. I don't know.
No,
Okay,
I think it's
there's
pretty
a little
brilliant.
bit of that,
I
though.
think like there's scenes. One scene that stuck out with me this rewatch is when he's going up in the Bahamas to the hotel where he knows that Dimitrios is at, and he goes down to tie his shoe, and then the obnoxious golfer guy is like, "Are you gonna take my car?" And he throws his keys up on, and Bond's like, "Oh yes, I'm sorry, sir." And he takes the car. And he like goes. He looks like he's doing a perfect parking job, and then he just reverses into a whole row of cars, setting off the alarms, making the security officers on the thing run away so that he can access the security room, which is like
that was so cool because it was
brilliant.
so industrious, right? Because he didn't plan for that to happen. He's so fluid and dynamic. It's
Right.
like, oh, I can use that.
You
I
have
really
to-
love that.
You have to be like that to be a field agent.
That's sweet. But let me. That's in the. I think that's in the part of the movie where I'm saying we should cut this part of the movie.
You should cut that out.
No, not specifically that scene, but I'm saying, here's what happened to me. I was 45 minutes into the movie, and I said out loud, I don't know what the bad guys want.
Right.
What is happening in this movie right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what happens up to that in the first hour. You get a really awesome parkour chase with like
It was
this
like the
bomb maker
first time
guy.
people had ever seen parkour. in a movie.
Parkour.
Yeah, it did a lot for parkour. There's actually a cool shout out to that sequence in one of the VFX or Stuntmen React videos recently.
Corridor Digital.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, go check that out. And so he's doing that chase. By the way, he's chasing like one of the world's foremost parkour guys. That character is panting as he does these crazy stunts, and Bond is breathing through his nose right till the end.
But that's not that unbelievable that he's in excellent shape. Like, you mean you look at him, you see him later in the movie, he's in excellent shape. And I love that they characterize Bond in that sequence. Most action movies, it's just like, okay, this is a crazy action guy, this is a crazy action guy. But they're using this like super acrobatic dude as a foil to Bond's like strength.
Right.
The guy jumps through a little hole in the wall. He does like this amazing move. Bond just bursts through the drywall. He's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And
at the same time, though, he also the dude climbs up really crazy up this crane, and then Bond catches up by using his intelligence to let it mechanically raise him up, right?
Yeah.
But then
there's some good visual storytelling there.
But there's also a disharmony because it's like if the other guy is athletically superior and he's panting, then Bond should be out of breath.
Yeah, it's
IMHO.
When you put all the pieces together, there's some pieces that don't fit. It's like, wait, is he all brawn or is he intelligent or is he athletic?
He's all of it. He's not quite as
he's
acrobatic,
everything.
But he's in great shape. Like he's in the best shape of his entire life.
And that's why Bond, I think, is slightly I'm uninterested a little because he's just kind of like, he's good at everything.
He's OP.
Yeah, he's OP.
I can totally agree with that. There's definitely a lot of movies where Bond can do everything. Like he'll just pull out like some stupid information. Like they'll be like, oh, this flower that was used to poison something, and he'll be like, oh, I know this flower. It is this species, this genus, this that, and you're like, what? How does he know this? How does he know everything?
You can also grind it down to make a love
Aphrodisiac.
potion. Yeah.
Also, while we're talking about this chase, there's a part at the beginning where he's like, we need him alive. And the next thing he does is get into a bulldozer and recklessly like barrel down on the guy like there's concrete and pipes.
I said that
but I'm
out
like,
loud.
what
But that's characterization though, because the entire time he's like, we need them alive. We need these people alive, and he is so one-minded of like, I'm gonna get them even if it kills them. And he doesn't care about the order. Like even later with the chiffre, once he's beat it in the poker game and he thinks he's lost everything, he knows he needs the chiffre alive, but he picks up a knife because he's gonna kill him because he lost.
Right.
And so I don't think that that's a fault of the movie. I think that's just a characterization.
I will say that like I did appreciate this movie for the way that it kind of like tries to make Bond a little different. Like it actually delves into his character a little bit, where it's and I liked in particular the character of Vesper Lind, played excellently by Eva Green, where she kind of tells him, it's like, oh, I know your type. Like, you think of women as disposable pleasures instead of meaningful pursuits. And he's like, oh. And that interaction kind of like,
train?
you can see it on his face. He's kind of like, maybe women do have brains.
Cut to the next scene where there's just this egregious, like, it cuts to this woman in a bikini on a horse, just like breasts are just like bouncing. It's so in your face.
And the kids are like running after him. He's like,
To be fair, the next thing is objectification of Bond himself.
That's right.
Coming out of the water in his tight little one piece.
And I was I was
the whole
wondering, like,
series.
I was like, oh my God. And then it goes right to Daniel Craig, like, looking like steel. And I was like, does that make it okay?
as long as it's equal.
Yeah.
No, that's my problem with this series also in general. It's just like how, I don't know, how low it is, you know? Like,
This is from 2006, though.
then that's,
I don't think the new one would be like that.
I was aware of that while watching it this time, and I'm like, how much of this is just, it's dumb, and how much of it is that it's like, 14 years old?
This is probably the least misogynistic one.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like Skyfall, he kind of rapes the lady in the shower.
It gets worse?
Yeah.
That's a newer one.
It gets fine again in Spectre just because, but Spectre just sucks. But this one to me is one of the least misogynistic Bonds. Like, there's an actual a woman character with a real brain.
Yeah. And I like seeing that. I liked seeing that the first one that they decided to do with Daniel Craig, they're kind of like, I can understand why people view this as the best Bond, because I don't think that the other movies have managed to ascend to the same level of like meta-analysis, not meta-analysis, but like, movies about Bond that are analyzing the character of Bond.
They'll never do that.
That kind of like break it down, because, he's this gorilla of a man who just punches his way through things, and every sentence that he utters is in service of trying to get a woman into bed. But it's like this movie kind of like, hey, let's question that. Hold on a sec. Maybe he does have a brain and a heart. And maybe there is a woman who can match him,
Yeah,
as long as she knows what he can do with his little finger.
That's right.
Isn't that a brilliant line, though? I love that.
No, man. Some of the banter, I was like...
I thought that was a brilliant...
No, that one stood out as cringe to me. There's a few lines where I was like, that's pretty good writing, actually. That's pretty good banter. But then that one, I was like, I like the lead up to that line when she says, if all that was left of you was your smile and your finger, you'd still be more of a man. It's kind of hokey for her to say that, but it's a nice image, I guess. His smile, okay. But then when he replies to that, you know what I can do with my little finger.
It just reminded me of like of people in a relationship where the woman is like trying to get the man to take things seriously, and then he makes a dick joke. Like,
but then they address it. Like, they don't just leave it hanging. It's not like she gives a look like, oh, James. She's like, you've put your armor back on, and then they delve deeper into that emotion of him. Like, I don't want to deal with this.
I know.
I think
I don't want to think this movie is good, David.
It's good.
On the other hand,
I gave it a 7.
In that scene, that's like right after he got tortured. The mechanism of torture was lashing of his scrotum and testicles.
It wasn't lashing. It was like bludgeoning.
It was, flogging. That's the word I want. And then like right after that, he's like, well, I'm going to see if these nuts still work. And he's like trying to get laid. It's like, man, I think you need to take a couple weeks off.
I always assumed that he was out for a while. Like, it was like a couple weeks where he was out, and he would kind of recovered a little bit. Because he wakes up one time, kind of goes back under.
Yeah, he wakes up and the camera's all like foggy, right?
Yeah, and the timeline is a little unclear, but I always assumed that there was time for his junk to reshape. And I mean,
I thought of his junk a lot. I was
he's so masculine, it would just go right back.
Maybe like Daniel Craig rubs me the wrong way a little bit, Because like
How dare you?
What?
How dare you?
Well, I know people are gonna get mad because like they love Daniel Craig.
No, a lot of people hate him. A lot of people are like, bring me back the Pierce Brosnan tape.
And it's only because of the hair, You should have dyed it. No, I'm just kidding. But I grew up with Pierce Brosnan.
James Blonde.
Yeah. GoldenEye is a great movie. I love it.
It's pretty good, yeah.
And Tomorrow Never Dies.
Not good.
It's fine. But like Pierce Brosnan always, my entire life, because I didn't watch many of the older ones. Pierce Brosnan represented Bond to me, which is kind of like this suave, and I'm a British man, blah blah blah. And then Daniel Craig comes in. Daniel Craig. He comes in and he's just like, I don't know, he's like bashing through walls and stuff, and he just looks like the Hulk or something.
I think he's suave and cool. I like him.
I think so too.
He's
I think
suave, but he also, I don't know. Pierce Brosnan didn't seem like he'd punch you in the face as much.
But I think that's part of the problem is I don't believe any of the physicality of Bond, and I think that's his biggest weakness is that Brosnan, I can believe his like suave lady killing side, but when he comes to being a secret agent or a fighter, I'm like, ooh, he's not very good at that.
Well, he's he's about more about technique than I don't know, punches. I don't know.
But yeah,
I don't care.
And it's not like Craig's huge. It's not like he's
He's
Schwarzenegger.
pretty, well, okay.
he put on 20 pounds of muscle for this movie.
Yeah.
How tall is he, you know?
He's
5'10".
5'10".
5'10", probably, what, like 190?
Yeah, looks great in this movie.
He looks like a gorilla.
No.
It's not like The Rock or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He looks muscular.
Well, okay, but for Bond, he looks like a bodybuilder. Like Bond has always been fit and muscular, but he hasn't been like, I'm going to smash through a wall.
Who do you want to see
Sean
as Bond?
Connery was literally a bodybuilder.
But he wasn't.
Yeah, but
he was tall.
And he was
so
a
his muscles
1940s
kind of like,
bodybuilder. They're small and they have the triangular rates. They just didn't get that big back then.
I think maybe they've been traditionally taller, so then they're
Yes.
a bit more lankier. And Bond kind of seems like he's gonna like run at you like a rhino. Or sorry, Craig does.
See, I don't think that his physicality takes away from the other side of it, but like because he is problem solving with his brain. He's talking his way through things, and like I've heard a lot of people say this, that Daniel Craig isn't a good Bond because like he's not suave, he's not this, and I'm like, but he is. He's like really suave, and like
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's as
I'd hit
suave
it.
as a gorilla can be.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Do you think that, I don't know if this is ever going to expire, are the new Bond movies, are they going to not have stupid hokey stuff like when you see the bad guy and he has like a glass eye and a scar on his face and you're like, that's the bad guy. Or that other bad guy, she looks over and there's a dude who's wearing sunglasses, but there's only one lens in the sunglasses. You're like, hey, that guy looks evil.
Yeah.
What is
Looks
that?
like a bad guy to
Okay.
me.
And is
Did
that
you
just
guys-
part of Bond?
Did you guys find that Le Chiffre was cheesy, or did you like him?
No, I love Le Chiffre.
I think he's cool, but I just mean visually. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Bond character. A bunch of diamonds encrusted inside your skin.
But
Well,
they
that's
don't
bad.
they don't make it any. Well, I guess they wouldn't make it ambiguous. Like, you know that he's the villain. All of these villains, you know they're the villain right away.
Well, that's a real medical condition where you weep blood.
Yeah.
And most people, it's like more watery, but there is severe cases where it can be blood. So that's a real thing. And I really like it. I find it's not too much. It's just enough that it's like classic Bond, like the visual cue of evil. But it's like, it's not in your face or weird, like
Yeah.
Diamond Face.
what other
General Moon.
Bond characters are there that have that visual evilness?
Dr. No is the original. He has like a metal hand that's very
This
inconsistent.
is very ableist, franchise here.
Well, he's very inconsistent what he can do, because like at some points, like he can't grab, when he dies, he can't grab the metal to climb up, but at other points he's like smoking a cigarette and eating with the hand. So like,
It's whatever you need.
who else
it
would
to
there
be.
be? There's General Moon from, I guess that's Die Another Day. It's who has an explosion of diamonds into his face, so he has diamonds on.
Is he
his
called
face.
Diamond Face?
No, they don't ever call him Diamond Face, but everyone calls him Diamond Face.
Nice.
That's
That's what I like.
What about the guy that Dr. Evil's based off of?
well, that's Blofeld. So you're right. That's like the most classic.
He's got a scar or something.
Yeah, he's bald and he's got a scar.
Does he look exactly like Dr. Evil?
Very similar, less pale, a little bit less exaggerated.
In the new
but-
one, Rami Malek is the guy, right? Mm-hmm. He's got scars, right?
Sure does.
They've always got. You gotta have scars.
Yeah.
Unless you're James Bond, he gets hurt a lot, but he never scars.
Yeah, how many
Never.
times has he had to have his like face and body patched up? And
I think
MI6 has that like futuristic scar reduction tech.
In Skyfall, they show his body, and he's got scars on his body and stuff.
Yeah, on his body. Yeah,
On his
Leave the
body.
face, not the face.
Man, speaking of getting hurt, Daniel Craig got the crap kicked out of in this movie. He actually lost in the first fight scene that they fought or they shot. He actually lost his front teeth.
Oh, like his two
His
like
two
biting
front teeth
like
just
buck teeth.
Wow.
And so they had to bring a dentist in. Yeah,
Which fight was it? Do you know?
the Prague one,
Jeez.
which is like the bathroom one.
Oh yeah.
And
so that is actually at the beginning of the movie as well.
Yeah, I think it's the first thing
And
they
were
shot.
they already veneers or?
I don't know.
Actually, that brings me back to the beginning of the movie. I have a couple of things I want to ask you. One of the earliest shots is it opens black and white, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in that sequence, there's these shots where the camera's diagonal. I guess that's called canted frame or like Dutch tilt.
tilts, yeah.
And so they don't do it any other time in the movie, so it doesn't look like a stylistic thing that the director just likes to do. Is that an homage to earlier Bond
So
films?
it actually is a stylistic choice. So they shot the first sequence very particularly. It's shot on black and white film with two different stocks. So when he's first fighting the first person that he kills in the bathroom, it's a grainier stock, all handheld with the Dutch angles to show how rough the first kill is. It's a director's choice. It's on the commentary.
It's because he says he's talking to somebody who says that I've never killed anyone before.
Yeah, that's
and
his
then
first
he's
one.
recounting the first person that he killed.
And then the guy he's killing is like, oh, I've heard the second kill is much more, and he shoots him. Yes, considerably.
Yeah, that was sweet. Except when you say stock, you mean the type of film they're
Yeah, the type of film. So it's a much more grainy, and so it feels much more edgy. It's much more kinetic, but it's to show that was the most edgy, and then the second kill is a much higher, less grainy stock, and it's all like not static shots, but it's all on like sticks or dolly to be much more to show that his state of mind is much more settled.
Right.
And then he moves to color because now he's like full Bond.
I did
that's
like
pretty
that.
cool.
I did like that creative choice. Kind of like sets you into the mood of like, okay, here we go. It's Bond. Also, the intro sequence.
That's what I was building up to.
Who sings it?
It sounds like Chris Cornell,
It's Chris Cornell.
like Audio Slave.
I have to say that
Soundgarden.
probably like, I've been bashing Bond a lot, but my favorite thing about Bond is the intro sequences.
No,
They're always cool. What?
I didn't like it.
Well, no, wait. Separate the intro sequences from the franchise, like separate it from like the movie you're about to see, and just make it like its own thing. I like them.
It's
fun.
If I just watched that on its own as like a little 2-minute thing,
I like
I'd be
how,
a talented person made this, but I think it's
It's
thought
It's intriguing.
I
It's kind
know.
of like ooh, and
Yeah.
like the choices they make with like the melodies and the chord progressions are always just like a little eerie. It's like na 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 na. It's like ooh, what's going on?
I didn't think that this song fit very well.
I think I didn't like it the first couple times I heard it, but the more I've listened to it, I mean, I've watched this movie probably 15 times. I've grown to like it more and more. I like the title sequence itself from the first time. I think it's a very nice style that holds up really well, much better than any of the more recent ones of the kind of like the cards and him doing stuff. I think that looks good. But the song took many years to grow on me, and now I fucking love it.
Really? Well, I mean, that's good that you love it now, but like I loved it. I remember singing this song all the time. They go to the fourth, the sharp of the fourth. I don't.
The augmented fourth.
Yeah, there you go.
Diminished.
Crazy.
I just find the whole thing disruptive. I get that it's part of the franchise. They have these cool sequences. They all have a cool song there. Whatever. A lot of movies these days, though, you don't see opening credits anymore.
No, it's just a classic thing. So Tarantino actually bid Eon Productions to make Casino Royale. He was working hard to make it happen, and he wanted to make a very subversive version of Bond. And one of the things he wanted to do was cut the titles. Oh. He wanted it to be all black and white, set in the 60s, but he wanted to like kind of remove all of that iconography. And it's kind of interesting because Casino Royale actually loses a lot of the iconography of Bond while maintaining, I think, what most matters as the essence. But I think if you lose the title sequence, it's just not classic Bond, and people would just fight.
So you don't like sitting through the title sequences, James?
Not really. And I was thinking about it. I was like, when is the last time a movie had opening credits? It's like the cold opens all the time. But I thought it was the law that you needed to have opening credits.
Back then, yeah.
So I looked it up. I think it was like a union thing. And the specification actually is not that you have to have opening credits and closing credits. It's that you have to have the credits twice. Oh. And so what they do now, as in this movie, I believe. Actually, no, as in Kill Bill. I was watching Kill Bill a lot recently. We have to cover that. I love that movie. Anyway, the movie ends, and then they do credits and then credits again. Like it shows the characters you've seen throughout the movie, and it shows their name beside them. You're like, oh, so and so as you, cool. Right. And then after some notable characters doing that, then they just roll the actual credits. So they're still doing it twice. They just put it all in the end.
That's interesting. I like these, and I mean like. There's good title sequences and there's bad ones. Like Skyfall is such an iconic one, and the song is so good.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to the beginning though. Before the intro sequence, there's that part where the dude he's talking to takes a gun out of his desk and shoots him. But Bond's like, haha, I took the ammo out. And at first I was kind of like, ha, sweet. But then I was like, what? Wait a second. You know, like, dude, you saw that he got into your safe, which was hidden behind a painting. You don't think he like opened the drawer? Like Bond's sitting there like, I know where you keep your gun. It's like, yeah, in the one drawer of your desk? Like, no shit.
Well, this guy, he was dumb enough to get caught. Obviously, he's not the smartest crayon and the brightest crayon in the whatever.
He's just smart enough to be a Secret
Toolbox.
Service agent. Not smart enough to put his gun not in the...
Well.
And I mean, like, that's a pretty common movie thing where they point a gun and then there's actually nothing in it. Yeah,
I'm one step ahead,
it makes
buddy.
no sense because bullets are heavy. If you had like 17 bullets in a magazine in a gun, it's noticeably heavier.
But Bond thought of that too, and he filled it with blanks.
Or he left like 5 in.
That's
Just
right.
enough. Still the
That's
magazine.
right.
Yep. works.
I'm 3 steps ahead because I'm Bond.
What do you guys think of the poker in this movie?
Smart man.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys about the poker because I barely know how to play poker.
Oh, yeah?
I know, like every time I'm kind of like, wait, what does big blind and little blind mean again? Okay, is this combination worth more than this one? But they made it. I think that they hit a happy medium.
Yeah.
Where like
They don't need to explain
I
it.
think your viewing is enhanced if you know poker. It's probably better. But if you
Right.
don't know poker, there's someone there. It's Mathis to lean over and be like, "That's really good."
I think they
Which
go,
also, I have to say, which was one of the most, well, it wasn't the most annoying, but that was annoying to me because she's an accountant. Like, she's good with numbers. He keeps leaning over and be like, the pot's now 150 million.
He's
I wanted her to say like, yeah, I know, Mathis.
He's
Shut up.
mansplaining.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
I do feel
Doesn't
like
break the
they
world.
do a little bit too much explanation. I feel like that character. I know a little bit about poker. I guess maybe a tiny bit more than you.
So
I was trying to
screw
not
you,
sound
I
like
guess?
a
Weird tone, but
friggin'
okay.
I was trying to be like, how is this like? How do I sound the least stupid about this? And I felt like it was a little bit in my face a few times, especially when he's like, "That's the deal."
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's the deal.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's the one.
That's
Oh.
the one. So,
That
but-
wasn't the most egregious exposition in the movie to me. To me, that honor goes to the technology exposition, where it's like, okay, Bond's here. He has no one to talk to. So what he'll do is he'll go into the feature phone that he just stole from someone. And by the way, feature phones in this movie, he collects like a half dozen of them, and I guess they didn't have passwords. So it's like, I get your
yeah.
feature phone. I'm on to the next step.
Right.
Anyway, he's like on his computer or someone's phone, and it's like doing kind of an enhanced thing. It's not really enhanced because it's a map that's zooming into other
yeah.
subsequent layers. And then eventually, like a little trail goes, and then it shows a building, and then a nice label pops up, like
The Ocean Club.
building you must go to. Like that's
Yeah.
where I'm going.
Yeah.
Thanks,
It
computer.
actually didn't look that bad, you know. Like I was looking at that, I'm like, okay, I could understand, you know, maybe using this before absolutely everyone was on Google Maps or whatever. This looks like kind of the spy version of MapQuest or something, you know.
Yeah, I think it's
I
the
don't know, it looks pretty good.
quickest way to get him the information to get to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that the action in this movie is good?
I mean, yes, for sure. Especially like the parkour scene, for sure. There's lots of huge stuff, but I found myself tuning out a lot, especially during the fight at the end in the sinking building in Venice. I was just like, I don't care what's going on. Like, you're gonna punch that guy, you're gonna shoot this guy.
I agree. I think that's my least favorite action sequence. It's really cool. This movie has absolutely no CG except removing wires. Everything is practical. Like that's a real miniature
Really?
that they built. So they
Oh, that was a miniature.
There's a miniature, and then they CG the other buildings beside
They
it.
comped it in.
Yeah, which is fine.
It looked a little weird.
Yeah, but it's a real miniature, which is cool. And then the inside is a real set that they put in a tank, and it's actually sinking as they're fighting.
What?
Which is insane. And
It's
it's so
sinking?
cool. Yeah.
They didn't just like fill it up with water?
Well, it's probably. I think no. It's actually on hydraulics and it's going down. So
All right.
Well,
I guess that makes more sense.
They probably made multiple chunks of it. So they just
Right.
cut to, now we have a set that's the upper 10 feet of it, and we see that sinking.
Yeah.
They don't have to sink an entire like 5-story building or
I
whatever.
think I saw it's a 20-foot tank, so they can sink 20 feet.
Okay. I really liked when he's in his car racing after her after she's been kidnapped, and then she's just like along the road. He turns a corner and she's just tied up on the road.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was badass.
That's a good
And
moment.
then, man, that car, that's
Really
real?
flips.
What a car wreck. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah, geez.
It's got the world record for the most flips of a car in a movie.
Oh, really?
They kept trying to flip it and they just couldn't because the car's too stable, and so they kept upping the pressure of the air cannon that would launch it, and eventually they got it over, and then it friggin' actually takes off because it was so much pressure.
Oh my
Oh, and then it was
flies-
just a sail once it got up
was
there.
insane. It's such a good
Jeez.
flip.
That is, was there a person inside? No.
Doubt it. Maybe I don't know. No, let's say I don't know.
Speaking of air, remember the earlier scene at the airport? This is probably my least favorite scene. Cut this for sure. When he's chasing that terrorist who's trying to blow up that plane so that the stock price crashes or whatever. There's a cop car or something that drives by a plane that's like taking off, and then the gust from that
Yeah,
plane
yeah.
makes that car just go flying. Was that real?
That's real. It's a cable. They pull the car quick.
They actually flew the jet low enough.
Wait. When you say that's real, do you mean like
There's not a
the
jet
cable.
that launches it. The cable is what pulls the car.
Okay, it doesn't just give it a boost and then the air takes it from there.
No.
there's no air.
It pulled. That's
that
probably
was
two separate
CG.
scenes. They're probably comped together. It might be a real plane that they got the shot of, and then they pulled the car for real.
Well, my question is, do you think that would really happen? Is there that much?
They did a
thrust?
MythBusters on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it would work.
About that specific.
Yeah, about that scene specifically.
That's awesome.
Daniel Craig is vindicated.
Give me your 10 rating.
Oh man.
I just love I think one of the reasons I think Daniel Craig is so good is that he is so physical. Like when he does the hand-to-hand fighting, you really believe it. Like the scene when the terrorists are coming for Le Chiffre because he's lost their money and they're like, "Give us our money, dude," and then they see Craig in the hallway and they have a hand-to-hand fight in the stairs. That stair sequence is so cool. And it's like they're actually fighting down the stairs and you really believe it. And like they're getting tossed and like eventually they land at the bottom, but I don't know.
Yeah,
the
there's
physicality of it.
You know what this probably is that I don't, as James frequently points out, I didn't watch a ton of like these kind of, I don't know, 80s action movies.
Didn't have a childhood.
I had a childhood, but I didn't watch a ton of these like, Terminator / Die Hard / like movies that you watch that are action movies. That
Lethal
are,
Weapon.
Nope. Didn't see any of those. So I didn't watch any of those. So maybe I just don't have like, I see like an action sequence like that and I'm like, oh, they're fighting. It's cool. But like, I'm not like, oh, wow, that was such a good action scene,
Fair enough.
It's like mildly titillating.
Do you think it's like an ADD thing? I kind of just
Maybe.
I can't focus on it for that long. Even like I had just incidentally watched that Corridor Digital VFX Artist React episode that day, and they go over some of these stunts. Like there's one where the parkour guy goes down an elevator shaft. He like jumps into the shaft and then wall jumps to the floor below.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that is so cool, but
Yeah.
it's like a second and a half in the whole sequence, and I wouldn't even have noticed it. And maybe because you're overstimulated or you're just like used to stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, that was kind of cool.
I think
but
that's
when they
me.
break it down, you're like, wow, that is an amazing athletic stunt.
Right. I think it's definitely like, you're overstimulated. Desensitized to like crazy running chase sequences blasting through things.
Well, I keep thinking that the parkour is going to lose its effect because there's like you can just go on YouTube and search parkour and like I see people like jumping across 17 buildings in one leap.
I
and
keep thinking that parkour is going to like peter out, but it's still cool.
it's so cool.
Parkour.
Man, okay, so what do you guys think of that ending when he's kind of full form James Bond? He's let his attachments go. The bitch is dead.
He's James Bond level
and
2.
He gets the message that Vesper left for him of like, this is how you're going to track the next step of this quest.
Right.
And then Mr. White drives up to his place and he gets the phone call and he's like, Mr. White.
Hey, Mr. White.
And then he gets shot in the leg and he's crawling and he's in pain. And Bond shows up. And like, I can't remember if he's like, who are you?
No, that's what bothered me. He's just like, he's like crawling towards. He's like, and then like he like just looks up, and he's like Daniel Craig is there
on the phone call. He's like, "Who are you?" Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah. On the phone call, he's like, "Who are you?"
And then there's a gap.
Yeah.
And then he says,
that makes sense. Okay,
Right?
I
It's
was
just,
like,
just totally unannounced. Nobody asked that.
well, that's why I was so confused. I like that's how the movie ends too. I'm just like so for me, this movie ended with a what? So
That ending I thought was so provocative to me. I was like, whoa, now I have to think like, it's like, is this movie meant for the average viewer who hasn't seen any Bond movies, or do you have to really know Bond and then this movie is just like this little side quest that just like told you everything about the character, but like the character development is what matters in this movie, the plot doesn't matter. And the reason I felt like that was because I was like, wait, who really is this Mr. White guy? Is he part of that organization that they're always fighting? I don't really know. There's no catharsis here. But maybe they were like, it doesn't matter.
But that is because this is the beginning of the story arc that kind of continues throughout all the Daniel Craig movies, right? Or did they finish that already? Quantum of Solace.
The Quantum Solace. Quantum Solace. So Quantum Solace takes place seconds after this one. He's in the car with Mr. White in the trunk, driving to MI6.
And
Not
that's,
MI6,
and that's
but
a bit
little
strange.
base.
That's a bit strange in the Bond continuity, right? Like, there's not
They're
normally
never-
like sequels.
Very rare that they're connected. And
they knew they were going to have that. They knew they were going to have the sequel. That's what I read.
oh, maybe, man, they never get it as good as this one. And I kind of wish they had just like stopped
And forever. No
so
more Bonds.
So in later ones of Daniel Craig, there's Quantum, and that's the organization that Mr. White is part of that hires Le Chiffre to be the banker, and they give the recommendation. But then later they find out that Quantum is under the umbrella of Spectre.
Hydra. Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay.
Now that would be cool.
Of Spectre, and that's when it kind of sucks.
When there's subsidiaries?
Yeah. Quantum is the bad organization, but they're owned by Spectre. But it
They're
turns
even
out Spectre's
badder.
owned by Tesla.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. That'd be hilarious. Elon Musk is the next.
He's the,
Dude,
He does have a
Elon
bond.
Musk is
Elon
Le
Musk.
Chiffre.
Yeah.
he's the final bad guy.
He gets into like a rocket accident and gets a scar. Oh,
Bond has to
that'd be
fight
great.
him in his transforming roadster that like transforms into a big robot to fight. Yes, that's what I want to see.
Flamethrowers.
See, that's what
Boring
Bond
tunnels.
should be. Bond shouldn't be the only gadget you use as a
Defibrillator.
defibrillator. It should be like, whoa, I got a crazy watch laser and my car has missiles in it and jetpacks.
I think that kind of ends up feeling unsatisfying to me, where it's not about him overcoming anything.
That's way more satisfying.
It's about they reverse engineer those obstacles by a cool gadget they come up with.
contrived.
Wait. I will say that this movie, as a Bond movie, it does really well at deconstructing what we've seen of Bond before. I totally get that. But I think at the end of the day, Bond remains, and they kill the only person who represents any sort of like progression in his character. So he basically goes back to being the same angry.
Well, he has to because this is a prequel.
Yeah, totally. But I just mean that, like, I don't know. I know that that's necessary in order to secure future sequels with Bond still as, like, this single guy who's going to, like, bed multiple ladies and go crazy and punch people in the face and blow stuff up. Like, you have to kill his love interest in order for him to be on this revenge journey, because that's what we want to see. We want to see the explosions. But it's still so disappointing to me that, like, okay, we almost got to a place where we did something interesting with the character, and then we just had to reverse it, and now we're back to Bond being this, like, I'm sorry if this sounds too woke, #woke, but, like, he's still belonging to that great, tired tradition of, like, white male protagonists who are complete asses, and we're supposed to think they're cool because they're asses.
And especially, I guess, that's pretty valid considering that, correct me if I'm wrong, all of the Daniel Craig movies, they're all before the rest of the movies, right?
Yeah.
No. It's there's no real continuity.
Yeah,
Like
it's
there's
a
no
reboot.
official one. But this, I've heard it theorized on the James Bonding podcast that this is the first one, and then it goes back to Dr. No all through them, and then it's Skyfall. And Skyfall is like the end of it. And when you watch it, it's like he's old man Bond. He's tired. He's trying to get out of it.
I did think that was a bit weird because
Okay, well, at least the direct sequel that's seconds later is
Yeah. So it's those two.
I did.
then they
Yeah,
go
that
back.
was a bit weird because I guess so. Quantum of Solace is the direct sequel, and then all the other ones happen, and then Skyfall. But like Skyfall is the third Daniel Craig movie,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's
There's
interesting.
four. There's four
There's
now.
four right now. The fifth one is supposed to be coming out in a month.
I did think it was a bit quick that they got to like Old Man Bond already. I was like, what? I thought this was like his third movie.
Yeah,
it's been like
it seems like
15 years.
So Bond is always the sum
and
parts.
Skyfall came out in 2012,
Oh, okay.
so it was 6 years
6 years.
after the first one.
Yeah, James Bond is always kind of the sum parts of pop culture. Like if something new appears, they're like, let's do that. Like snowboarding is a thing. We'll put a snowboarding sequence, like a hovercraft
Body
being a
Worlds.
thing. Yeah, Body Worlds. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
that's exactly what it is. And kind of like tonally, they always do that. They're always kind of at the mercy of the cycle of pop culture. Like in the 80s, there's like a Miami Vice drug film, James Bond, where he's like, I'm angry and I'm fighting cocaine dealers.
Right.
And this Casino Royale is kind of, I think, a little bit free from that. But the later ones definitely kind of suffer of being of their time.
But what I was gonna ask you is if the trauma of this this love that he developed and then losing her and the bitch is dead and how like calloused he is after that, is that something that carries forward characterization wise? Like,
Well, I think-
are we seeing like an origin story? They're like, that's why he's like this for all of them.
I think so. I think that's what they're going for, certainly, is that he did have the ability to love. And they talk about it like he's like, there's not much man left. And like, he doesn't know how long he can go like this before he's just, there's nothing left.
Well, but that's weird because it's like if that's supposed to be the reason why he's like that, then why was he like that before he met Vesper Lind? Before he met Vesper Lind, he's that same guy. He's like, oh, I sleep with married women. I don't know.
Sort of. I think like there is some growth. I mean, they weren't going to start him off as like a young buck. Like, I'm going to stick by the rules.
He already is.
All I want is a girlfriend. Oh no, she's dead. Oh, I swear revenge.
Yeah.
Because he already is an agent.
That's young Bond.
Yeah. Why do you guys think that Vesper killed herself at the end?
Yeah. Which is also why it seems contrived to me, because the reason that she double-crossed is because her boyfriend was apparently being held, which is also like, wait, she has a boyfriend?
Yeah, but they set that up.
They set that up with the Algerian.
They set that up, but
necklace.
then she's just kind of like, okay, so they're holding my boyfriend. Was he alive or dead? No, he's being held captive. So that's why she has to give the ransom
But that's
money.
why she's so resistant to him, is that she's falling in love with Daniel Craig. And like I believe that she's falling for him really, but she still knows that she has this duty to this. She thinks she has this duty.
Yeah,
to
I
this
think
other
killing
man.
herself is like the way out because she's like, damn it,
Yeah,
now
I
I'm in a
can't-
love triangle.
Oh.
And I think she kind of knew that there was no way out, and this was the best.
I see. It makes sense, but like I don't know. It just still bothers me as like she had to kill herself for. This is I bring it back to Star Wars. I think it's my goal in every podcast to relate something back to Star Wars, The Last Jedi. This is my problem with The Last Jedi, right? That a bunch of things happen that make sense within the story, but they kind of make you as the viewer kind of feel weird about it because it seems contrived. Like it helps the plot. It helps the plot move forward, but it seems like a contrived plot device because, why do we have to kill another love interest?
She needs to be dead by the end of the movie, Riley.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the objective is to have her dead by the end of the movie so that he can have this revenge arc.
And then 2 movies
And
later.
so when she kills herself, all I'm thinking is, she's dying to serve Bond's character right now. And that's what I'm thinking as I'm watching it.
Well, it's hard. In the book, Casino Royale, she does kill herself, but she just commits suicide. It's not like this bit drawn out sequence.
I don't care what it is. The book is...
And so
just as bad.
they had to kill her somehow. Apparently, there was an edit where they were trying to make it that she wouldn't die, but the director was like, no, she's got to die.
Yeah, I mean...
I think it's just...
I'm not-
I always interpret it, and I do have questions about it, but I kind of like that it leaves me with a few questions.
I have several questions.
But what I like is that, like...
I guess she had to die.
She's so torn. And they say it. She knows that, like, somehow she was going to die in this, and, like, this is just the easiest, fastest way to, like, stop the hurt.
I'm totally nitpicking. Like, it's a fine... It's fine,
Oh, you want some nitpicks? Here's a couple.
Yes, please.
Give me him.
In the sinking ship or sinking building fight scene, he uses a nail gun with one hand at range. You can't do that.
That's not how nail
they have
guns
safety
work.
things. You got to pull the
Well, and
safety
the
back.
other guy comes down with a nail gun and he's going rapid fire. Like...
Automatic, yeah.
An automatic nail gun.
That's
and also,
fine, but you have to use 2 hands so you can hold the safety thing back.
Okay.
They've-
But also, where do that guy just picked it up somewhere? You never see him grab the nail gun. He just comes around the corner and he's got a
They
nail
should
gun.
have went for it. There's someone dual wielding with like Matrix glasses on, slow motion.
It just turns into like a various construction paraphernalia like fight. Like someone's got a crowbar.
I have a few nitpicks, too. These are really nitpicky. They're poker errors.
Oh,
dealer,
no.
The dealer, when he's like revealing it, would never, ever mix cards. He would never take the player's cards and put them into the thing.
Oh,
Never, ever would do that. Also, because
Okay,
Bond...
well that just helps the viewer though.
Because Bond is the first to go with an aggressive bet, he would be the first to reveal his cards. But in the service of the movie, where he would reveal his cards
Right.
last, they do that.
You know what
It'd be
I'll-
a pretty bad sequence if he was like, "I win," and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh."
This isn't a plot hole, but it annoyed me that every time Bond put his like chips in for all in, he would just mess them up. Like other people would be like all in, and they just like move, like slide them forward, and he'd be like all in, and he'd just like mess up his whole thing.
I love
Yeah.
that. I bet he improvised that.
Yeah, my real actual problem with this movie that like makes me uncomfortable
Oh wow!
is the scene after the stairway fight scene, and Eva Green's character Vesper has helped James Bond kill the person, and all she does is prevents him from grabbing the gun so that Bond can kill him.
But that's probably the most that she's done.
And then he goes back, does poker, and then he comes back to the hotel room, and she's in the shower, kind of crying with the cold water running, and he joins her. And it's a really nice scene. I like the scene of like him being like, here, and she's like, I've got blood on my hands. And he sucks her fingers.
Yeah, what was that? She's doing this like
It's Hamlet.
she's doing this like Macbeth reference, like damn splot thing, and then he sucks her fingers and he's like, "Is that better?" And she like doesn't react. I'm like,
No, she
Exactly.
nods her head.
she just, like,
Exactly.
placates him. Just like, that's a lot better. Thank you.
So that scene is one shot. But originally he sucked all of her fingers.
Oh, God.
And they're like, this is weird and too much. And so you can actually see there's a stitch halfway through where so he just sucks 2 fingers and then ends.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Oh,
4
interesting.
fingers of sucking.
Yeah.
What is
See, and
that?
I also thought that was like, I guess it kind of makes sense with his character, but like it annoyed me a little bit where I'm like, wait, why is he emotionally intelligent enough to know that the best thing to do in this situation is to get in the shower with her? Because we haven't seen this from him, and we've seen him be like an emotionless brute before. But again, then I came back around and I'm like, okay, this could maybe like factor back into his character as something where he like is good at improvising, where the guy like tossed him his keys or whatever, and he's like, "Yep, got it right away."
Maybe he's letting her in. Maybe he's like,
well, totally, but it was just so quick. Like there was no hesitation. He just walked in, saw her in the shower, and then just like walked right up and got in the shower with her. Instead of kind of being like, what do I do here? Like, how do I deal with my
I've seen this before.
That's
a lot of people aren't that emotionally intelligent where they're just like, okay, someone who is down, you need to go down to their level and be there with them in their suffering, and that makes them feel better.
Preach.
I don't disagree. I think like a real person would suffer more, but you're not looking at a real person. You're looking at a superhuman who
Exactly.
can't. Like, there's never a moment in Bond where he's like, what do I do? Like, he's always ahead of the
But wouldn't that be interesting? To see Bond hesitate?
I would love a deconstruction of Bond. I think that'd be an amazing movie where like he becomes like an alcoholic and like really suffers, and like they tow with that in Skyfall where like he's abandoned the service and he's living in wherever and he's taking shots with scorpions and he's like whatever, and duty calls him, but they'll never do that, and I think I'm okay with that as much as I would like it.
Bond is super powered, so you expect him to be absolutely capable in any sort of physically demanding situation, and that's why I wanted something a bit more here, because it wasn't a physically demanding situation; it was an emotionally demanding situation.
You wanted more. That's what he did it. You're saying
no, I'm saying I wanted more. It again felt a little contrived.
Sure.
It just happened.
The thing that bothered me about it was that they're playing poker. They go on the recess from poker. He kills the dude. Then he changes his shirt. Poker resumes. He sits at the poker table, and Le Chiffre's like, "You changed your shirt, Mr. Bond."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Shit, yeah." And then and then that's when he goes to the shower, and then poker does not resume again.
Well, I think that's it for the night. Yeah,
that's it for the night. So we see half of we see a quarter of all poker. For that day. It's like there's 2 days of poker. On day 1, we only see the first half of the game.
Right.
Because they go into the recess, he comes back, and then we just don't see the rest of that night. Yeah. And I thought that was weird. I thought maybe there's a deleted scene there.
No, they do a jump from like, okay, we've been playing for 4 hours. Now it's time for an hour break.
I don't want more poker.
And then they come back, and then it's just like a time jump.
There's plenty of poker.
No, I don't want more. It just seemed weird.
That's fair.
Me and my friends played poker so often after this movie came out. And maybe this is where my disdain for Bond comes from, because my friends were super into Bond, and they're like, "Oh, the new Bond, blah blah blah," and they wanted to like make fan films and stuff about Bond. We would make like little sketches and stuff. This is when we were in like we were just out of high school. We were just
like
fooling around.
26. We're like
yeah. No, we like fiddled around, and made like sketches on like camera and stuff. So like they were super into it. And I was just like, so they made me play poker, and I sucked at poker.
Oh.
So then I'm just like, get out of here.
You found the truth.
You know, another moment that was weak?
I'm psychoanalyzing myself.
That moment where he's at the Body Worlds thing, and that guy pulls a knife on him, and they're in that little, like, struggle with the knife.
Yeah.
And the way that he beats the other dude is just by, like, doing a wordless, look over there with his eye. With his eyes. He just, like, nods.
He's like, yo, check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, behold. Like, he just looks up in one direction. That
doesn't bother.
And the guy goes, huh? And then,
I don't find that unbelievable.
It could
that
work.
You could get distracted in the middle of it because like there's so much happening in your brain. You're like, you're not like thinking like he's gonna try that. Like it's so unexpected.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It was so funny if he did that, and then the guy was like, huh? And then they just kind of like struggled for a little bit, but then nothing happened.
A martial artist wouldn't do that though. Martial artists they don't do moves that are dependent on chance. Right? They do things like forcing moves. Like, this is a high probability. If I use body mechanics in this way, you'll get stabbed.
You know what my favorite part of that scene was that he does that, and then he stabs him once with a knife, goes unconscious.
Yeah, that's little unbelievable.
That's how you kill people.
And it's like a little like 3-inch blade.
And
like,
it wouldn't be.
fine.
And there's not like blood dripping all over the science exhibit where there's a million people walking around.
Well, it's the same thing later after the stairs fight. He chokes the guy out, and then it's like, we killed him, and they hide the body. He's like, you just choked him out.
Yeah.
He's just unconscious. He'll wake up in
Yeah,
like 5 minutes.
I always wonder about that. Because like
superpowers.
like if you just do that until somebody goes unconscious, they're not dead, they're sleeping.
No, so you're cutting off blood to the brain.
Yeah.
The brain can survive for some amount of time without oxygen. Right. So
as soon as you release it,
and blood's going back in, it's fine.
Yeah.
You'd have to. You're cutting it off.
you'd have to keep holding it
Hold
for a
it
while.
for like, I don't know, like 6 minutes or something like that
Yeah.
to do a bunch of brain damage.
In this podcast, we learned how to kill someone.
Well, that's strangling, not choking.
I
Sorry.
do.
Strangling is blood, choking's air. So
I think that's one of those like film things that you can forgive or you can't, but it's just like they're not going to show like after he's like pulls out his gun and like.
Yeah, that'd be pretty savage. Especially
Double tap.
Yeah.
she's just standing there like, oh my god. You have to.
And I love the scene after when Mathis uses puts the bodies in a trunk, and then the police are around, and he like calls the cell phone in the pocket, and he's like, "Dead people can still be useful, huh?" Guys,
bonjour
who do
aujourd'hui.
So we're going to the last episode of Daniel Craig, and it got delayed by 6 months, so fuck me. But
Oh no!
Yeah, so
Turns out we do have time to die. Guys, I cannot take credit for that.
From coronavirus.
That's from Mark.
love you,
That's
Mark.
the Mark. The
He's probably the
LMG
second
editor.
biggest James Bond fan in the office.
No, he's not.
He loves James Bond.
How dare he not? We were joking about it earlier. He didn't tell me that.
You're leading us into something.
Yeah. So, who do you think should be the next James Bond after Daniel Craig? So, did you know?
I
Okay,
thought
so
that lady was going to be 007.
she's 007, but she won't be James Bond. They might be maybe touching it with
She's
it.
in the movie.
She's in the movie,
And
but
she's an agent.
She's not replacing James Bond. He's no longer a 00 agent. He's just James Bond.
I think they should just.
That's in this.
And
No
Die
Time to
Another
Die.
Day. No
I
Time
think
to
the
Die.
future
Yeah.
here
Die
is
Another Day,
to.
Die Another Day.
Well, I don't know. See, that's the thing about Bond. Will the fan base accept a woman Bond? You know, if we
Sadly,
decide,
no.
because what I would like to see. I wouldn't like to see anything because I don't care either way. But I think the most interesting thing to me would be probably like having Bond canonically retire. And so then the 007 title is passed on to a new agent.
I'd be super down for that.
And then that happens.
Isn't that what's happening?
Sort of.
Maybe.
I thought the upcoming movie was going to be like a pass the torch movie, and then the following movie would just be her.
My theory is that if people really love her, they might consider doing that. But they're like, I don't think that's their plan. I think they're probably thinking about rebooting, but they might be flexible. I don't know.
To answer your question, then Tom Hardy, right?
Ew, no.
Ooh.
Not you know.
No,
Too-
Tom Hardy would be
no.
even more gorilla,
Way more
hulky
gorilla.
man than Daniel
So,
Craig.
Originally, before
Softer lips though.
Oh no, my carpool. Need to
These
wrap this
critics
up.
got real carpools.
So before Casino Royale, the alternate choice that was very close to being cast was Henry Cavill.
Who's that?
That's Superman. That's the current Superman, the guy from Mission Impossible 6.
I'd accept him.
But he was too young. He was too young
I
at the
accept you.
time. He would have been 22, so I think that's too young. But now, I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, I'm
I don't care.
Idris Elba. I don't know. Oh no, but
He's
Idris
too
Elba
old
isn't
now.
doing it. Yeah,
He's too old.
A black Bond would be cool.
Yeah. My other person was Michael Fassbender, because I think it'd be cool to kind of have him go more of an intelligent way with like a little physicality.
See,
But-
yeah, I love Michael Fassbender.
doesn't?
He's
He's
too
awesome.
pinner.
No,
Pierce
but see,
Brosnan's
that's
a pinner.
that's the physique I think I expect more from. If he jacks up a little bit, because he has a bit of a, he got pretty skinny for some of
You
his
know what?
roles.
Comeback tour, Stallone. Here's the M. Hey, give me the gadgets.
For king and country.
Gold member.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, God, we got to call it there. Hey, guys, if you like this podcast, be sure to rate it wherever you get your podcast from. Give us a subscribe on YouTube. Watch it. Let's do it. Do both. Do everything. Tell all your friends, especially tell your friends if they're not a fan of LMG.
Yeah.
You know? Spread this.
There's so many things for you to discover and explore.
And tweet at us, at
Yeah.
Carpool Critics.
And send us emails
Twitter.
with questions and your opinions on our next
And
movie.
stop telling us that Control X is a Linux thing.
Yeah, we know that Control X is a Linux thing. We're sorry.
God damn it.
Jeez.
We love you, though.